When people hear the word asset protection or business structure, holding company, series LLC, it can get sometimes a little bit confusing. I know sometimes it can be a lot of information, a lot of new information. It's not it's not widely known yet. And so it can become easy to overlook the actual benefits that you are receiving or getting from using, an anonymity protected LLC or a land trust or a asset protection plan as a whole. This is going to be a skeleton overview of what some of those mechanisms are and what the benefits actually are and what they provide and how they can be applied to your individual situation. So moving forward to some of the key features, again, as I mentioned, whether you're wanting to protect your primary residence, a second home, an investment property, land that you own, a business, whatever it may be, there's various features and structures that can be used based on your individual circumstance. So if we're talking about key benefits here, I'm going to briefly hit these and explain a brief definition of what they are, and then go into a little bit more detail in the following slides. But when we talk about compartmentalization, what we're talking about there is segmenting revenue, whether it be from investment properties or other businesses. Anonymity is what we're referring to in the sense of protecting ownership information from the public record. Liability protection is, obviously that's the whole point of having an LLC in the first place. I think that has become a very overused term that a lot of people have, don't even know what LLC stands for. I'll go over all of that, but liability protection is something to take very seriously, and the inverse of that is charging order protection. I'll go into more detail on that as well. Whether it be an LLC, a land trust, or a structure as a whole, you can set them up in a way that makes it very easy to manage. You can make it very cost effective, and it's infinitely scalable. Again, assuming you can set it up correctly from the start, based on your initial plans, your current business model, and what you envision your business model transitioning into. So if we're moving on, we'll start with anonymity and what exactly I mean by that. So that allows you to control your real estate or your business assets either through like a trust, a revocable trust, a land trust, which allows you to exclude your name from personal records. So when you have a trust set up, you're going to have a trustee that controls the asset owned by that trust. And you're able to do so using an anonymity protected LLC, largely through the state of Wyoming, which is the state that we typically use. The 4 states that provide the most anonymity are Texas, Nevada, Wyoming, and Delaware. We typically use Wyoming and Delaware, and excluding ownership information from the public record, while it doesn't act as a complete bar against potential lawsuits, what it does do is it helps drive up the costs of a potential creditor. So if you can drive up their costs so high that it almost makes pursuing the lawsuit in the first place not even feasible or logical, that naturally acts as a deterrent against the lawsuit in the first place. And so a lot of our clients are electing to go this route and to hold properties through anonymous trusts or anonymity protected LLCs. Now, liability protection, moving on, this is the main feature of an LLC in the first place. What it does is think of an LLC as a duplicate of you as an individual, just a far less valuable version of you and a version that you can control. So liability protection essentially is a shield between you as an individual and all of your other, all of your other properties, assets, your net worth as a whole. It's a shield between you and the creditors of your business. So if there's a potential creditor of your business via, one of your business operations, or a fault of your business, a fault of one of your employees, the liability protection aspect steps in front of you and protects you from that potential creditor. On the other hand, the inverse of that is charging order protection. So some states offer charging order protection, some do not. The ones that do offer charging order protection are offering it to protect businesses. They tend to be more business friendly, more conservative states. And the reason for the public policy behind that is to protect business activity, protect and encourage commerce, and promoting local economy and incentivize the creation of businesses. And so what that exactly means, or what the function of a charging order is let's say that you as an individual are driving home one day, you get into a car accident, and the individual that you got into the accident with attempts to sue you individually, and they discover that you own properties or businesses, and they may want to attach to some of those business assets, some of the business cash flow or revenue. Charging order protection steps in front of that creditor and protects your business from that creditor. So that is essentially the inverse of liability protection. So depending on your structure and how you have it set up currently, or what you envision you transitioning into, you can set these up in a very manageable way as far as bookkeeping, accounting, data analysis, gathering of information, assessing markets in different geographic locations. As long as you can set up either a holding company, your series LLC if you own rental properties, as long as you have a good set of books, a management company or operating company, should you wish to have that, it allows you to very, very much streamline your accounting and management of the portfolio as a whole. Another thing that we love setting up, or another reason that we love setting up these types of structures, is it really allows for infinite scalability. Sometimes people can hit a point where they realize, wow, I have far too many LLCs, or I have far too many rental properties, and I don't even know how to organize these anymore. I can't keep track of the books anymore. I can't keep track of it. Just becomes very difficult to manage, which is the whole point of having a structure in the first place, so that you can simplify all of that. So that's one thing we love using, is as far as series LLCs go, but also traditional holding companies that manage other partnerships, LLCs, corporations, so on and so forth. Now, as I mentioned, some of those mechanisms are land trusts, revocable trusts, LLCs, as I just mentioned, holding companies. And I'll start off with some of the different examples. So a statutory trust is kind of a tax haven, or it's an instrument to use a lot of times for tax flexibility. A land trust, at least here in Florida, some states do not recognize a quote unquote land trust. Doesn't mean you can't use a trust to hold title. You just have to name it something different. You just can't name it a land trust. But we like to use, for our clients, a land trust to hold title to real estate, because it protects ownership information from public record, also deters against title fraud. And because right now title fraud is becoming a main issue for a lot of people that are having personal information stolen and then used to forge a deed, out of the true owner's name and into a fraudulent person's name, or they're using that information to forge loan documents. When you use a land trust, it makes it far more difficult for that cyber criminal to steal, or even know whose information to steal. So it also acts as a deterrent against title fraud. As I mentioned, a living trust / revocable trust. Irrevocable trust is more as part of an estate plan and for tax flexibility as well. So as I mentioned, who needs a trust? Again, in our opinion, um, anyone who owns real estate should be using a trust to hold title. Now, you're probably asking, well, what if I finance my property and I have to finance it using my individual name? Great question. So, yes, you would have to close in your individual name, but shortly thereafter, you would be able to transfer via a quitclaim deed uh, from your individual name into the name of a land trust. And then you would be able to hold title through that land trust thereafter. As I mentioned, I already covered a lot of this. So protect your anonymity, whether it be through using a nominee trustee or using an anonymity protected LLC in the state of Wyoming, the state of Texas, and what have you. So LLCs, as I mentioned, a series LLCs. I'll cover that in depth because those are a tremendous tool. They're very cost effective. They are different than using a traditional holding company, and because when you're using a traditional holding company to manage other LLCs, you end up with 10 properties and 10 different LLCs. That's 10 sets of annual reporting fees, 10 sets of filing fees, 10 sets of registered agent fees. It starts to add up pretty quick. So with a series, it allows you to achieve the same benefits of liability protection, charging order protection, but by requiring you to only file one LLC that manages each child series under the parent or the master, quote unquote, master LLC. More on that to come. So again, this can be summarized as, to answer the question, who needs an LLC? It can be summarized as, do you have a business? Do you own a property, personal residence, second home, vacation home? Are you collecting revenue, generating revenue in some way? You're going to want to have some sort of business entity set up to protect yourself. Covered a lot of this as well. I won't, I know you can read, I won't go through all of this, but holding companies are also great. Some people are a little, they prefer the holding company route. It does take a little bit extra work, but I would say that there's more room for error. I can explain what I mean by room for error in another video. That video will be relative to series LLCs, because with series LLCs, they require very, very good bookkeeping and very, very good management of the parent company's operating agreement to achieve and or secure the benefits that are afforded by an LLC. With a holding company, you're going to have a separate operating agreement for each LLC. So you have a little bit more room for error. And when things change, you add something to your portfolio or you subtract something. The consequences of doing so are far less or far more impactful than when you have a series and technically one operating agreement, because we need to identify each series in that operating agreement and each one has an effect on the other. So there's just a little bit more detail required for a series. So it being cost effective, that's the benefit, but the trade-off to that is, well, we need a little bit more detail now to specifically identify how our business model operates or how our structure operates. Again, similar, I know I went through a lot of this already. Owning subsidiary companies, that is one of the features of a holding company as opposed to a series. With a series LLC, I want to differentiate the two. It's not like an either or. I would say that a series LLC is more used for passive income. It's for people playing the cash flow game. Now, can you use a series LLC to have rental properties where you collect cash flow, but then you also have another series be more like active income? Yeah, you can do that, but I don't recommend it. We only recommend using series LLCs for rental properties. So if you're going to have rental properties and active and have businesses or companies where you're generating active income, we recommend having the series kept separate with rental properties that would be considered passive income. And then we recommend having a separate holding company that oversees all of your active income businesses. So if you have any questions about this or any of the features or benefits, this is a very much an overview. There's much more detail to fill in here, but I know that a lot of the features and benefits that I covered here are easily overlooked because this terminology can get very overused from time to time.